know, a guy some people want us to bring in, Jason Taylor, a guy some would like us to take a look at. I don't think Jason Taylor is a football player anymore. I think he's a dancer. I don't suspect that he has any interest in playing in Green Bay, partly for the reason stated. He's not a football player anymore. He doesn't want to get out. He doesn't want to get dirty, and he doesn't want to get hurt. He wants to go to Hollywood and have another beautiful, wonderful, lucrative career there. As you can tell, I have no respect whatsoever for that guy anymore. I did before, but just the last couple seasons, he's made a lot of money to do very little. So I don't look for him. I hope we don't pursue him. I don't see any need for him. But there are other players available, and we may see something happen. Personally, I don't expect us to do much else in free agency, and that's why I'm looking forward to the draft. As we know, Ted Thompson is always looking forward to the draft. And here are my predictions for the draft. I'm not going to name names. I'm not interested right now in saying we'll have a draft special later, and I'll talk about who I think we're going to pick. I've got kind of an idea. It's way too far out. But also look for By the Numbers podcast on GreenBayPackerNation.com, and you will see more on the draft. For me, I just want to bring out a few principles. Number one, I think there's a good chance that Ted Thompson is going to trade down from that number 9 spot, and the reason being, I sense there's a lot of interest in our spot right there, that number 9 position. I have a feeling Ted Thompson's going to get a lot of calls offering their top of the order switch, and then a top of the order second draft pick. I think that may be a reality this time around. On top of that, I believe Ted Thompson in the first round is willing to do those things when he's kind of at that teeter-totter spot where he's not going to get an unbelievable player, but to trade back a bit, he's not going to get a bad player either. That's the kind of thing that really teases him in. So you can see if my prediction and his predictability in that regard is correct. Number 2, look for us to come away from the draft with a ton of defensive picks. Now, I'm going to hedge my bet a little bit because I also want to say, do not, and this is number 4, do not be surprised. Do not be shocked if Ted Thompson if he doesn't trade down in the first round. Do not be surprised if we don't pick up an offensive tackle. There are a lot of good players out there. I think we may end up with one of them. That is where Ted Thompson is most stringent about his philosophy of picking the best player available, and I believe some of those offensive tackles may trump our defensive needs in the first round. So you can follow that, see what happens, but don't be shocked. And this will be the opposite of the case when Justin Harrell was picked, when we thought we maybe needed some offensive players or other players, except for the fact that when Ted Thompson goes ahead and picks, if he picks an offensive tackle, it'll probably be one that has not been injured, did not spend most of the year on injured reserve. But don't be surprised if he doesn't pick offense in the first round. I think, I'd like to see us go after, if Brian Orakpo is still on the board. I'm not sure he's still going to be there at 9 if we in fact do pick at 9, but he would be a good addition. There are, others, Ferguson, there are several players that could make an impact for our particular needs in the 3-4 defense coming right out of the draft. Now, again, that goes back to Ted Thompson's self-stated philosophy that he always picks the best player available. You and I know that is not necessarily the case. I don't think a couple of the quarterbacks we picked last season were necessarily the best player available on even his board. So we will see what happens when the draft comes around, and of course have more specific information for you then. These are just a few nuggets to chew on, but remember, even though there's not much going on in the off season for the Packers, there's still a lot going on at GreenBayPackerNation.com. Jump on board, become a member today. We're going to have some promotions coming up as the off season comes to a close. The Cheese, our satirical newspaper, exclusively for the Packers. Nothing but pure humor for the Packers. And every Packers fan needs that right now. Go on, get on GreenBayPackerNation.com, click the Cheese link We have in our rotator one of our featured articles. Get a laugh. You need it. You deserve it. It's the best medicine for this upcoming uncertain and unpredictable season, unpredictable draft. But it's going to be interesting, as always. I think we're going to have, if last season, the preseason last year was the most interesting in Packers history, which I think it very well could have been, this preseason may be just a shade less. We've got more in terms of the changes that are being made. We've got a new defense coming in. We've got an entirely new defensive staff. Look for the Packers to have an entirely new attitude on defense, and I hope that we do that. I believe that Don Capers is going to bring that attitude, and I am hopeful that we are going to rebound big time and be carried back into the playoffs. Even though there are plenty of questions still out there, we're going to address as many of those as we can this off season. Here and there, we're blogging. We are feeding every bit, every drop of news that's out there, coming directly to GreenBayPackerNation.com. So make yourself aware, keep yourself involved, and check out GreenBayPackerNation.com. So we hope to see you next time on the Atrium, and until that time, sometime before the draft, as we always say here at the Atrium, go Pack.